All right, Adam. We just left The Exorcist Believer.
Yep.
If anything, I'm not a believer in David Gordon Green.
You picked the lowest hanging joke.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna take the lowest hanging joke because they went for the lowest quality script.
Yes, they did. I was not a fan of this. I got nothing out of it. I don't know why we needed it. And I don't think there needs to be a trilogy. And we shouldn't have handed anything to David Gordon Green after Halloween Ends. Halloween 2018, really good. Halloween Kills, good and bad. Halloween Ends was terrible. Why was this a thing? I don't think anybody needed it.
I wouldn't even say you don't think anyone needed it. I can guarantee you no one needed this, except maybe David Gordon Green himself to prove that, he really is good at screwing up franchises. I don't see any redeeming qualities to this movie.
I thought Leslie Odom Jr. was fine.
There were a couple,
couple of moments that I didn't mind, but there was one moment, you know what I'm talking about, where it was very clear that everyone, or almost everybody, except for maybe the people in front of us, turned on the movie.
Yeah, I'd say the entire crowd literally gave up on the movie about halfway in.
It was before then. This movie feels like it's 3 hours long.
Yeah,
I haven't sighed that much in a very long time.
That was terrible. We were, maybe 3 minutes into the movie when a location identifier came up and both of us audibly went, "Oh dear God."
Yeah, I think it was "oh no" verbatim. It's something that's very tasteless, and it didn't do what I was expecting it to do, because we heard about this going in.
Yeah.
Not specifics, but we knew what it was going to be.
We had a general idea what this specific tasteless event was going to be because of one review, and I can't even give that person credit for preparing me enough for how bad that idea was.
And there's no reason to work it into the plot, because you could have done 35 other things that would have worked just as well.
Right, you could have done literally anything. Cancer would have been a better choice.
Saw X did it tastefully.
Terrible choice.
Yeah.
It really, all this ends up being is no one supervised David Gordon Green, and I don't even know if there were any other script writers on this thing.
Danny McBride, I think, played a part in the script, which I love Danny McBride. Not for this.
Yeah, that was something else, and now my car light is flickering because there's an exorcism that needs to happen in this car to make me forget about this movie.
I will say, at least props to the theater, their marquee in order says Exorcist Believer, and then The Blind Paw Patrol Saw X. So that's the most entertainment I've gotten out of tonight.
Look, all I can say about this movie is that in the end, it's not the two child actors that caused the problem. They were probably the best part of the movie, and when the demon is possessing them, there's still not even enough quality control for the audio dub to have looked good.
Yeah, and I also don't know why this was filmed for IMAX. I think when we first saw the trailer when we were seeing Oppenheimer.
When we were seeing Oppenheimer.
And I called it the most obnoxious trailer I've ever seen, especially for IMAX. This movie, I don't know if I call it obnoxious, but that trailer and this movie do not gel. One did not live up to the other. This is either the worst or the second worst horror movie I've seen this year.
This is up there with one of those movies where you watch it once and you've seen it enough times to carry that over into your next life. And I watch a lot of bad movies. That's my bread and butter, is bad movies. And this has no redeeming qualities that'll make me want to watch it again. I can't even consider buying this on Blu-ray or 4K. Well,
we were talking to one of the workers, and we were just talking about just horror movies in general. And, I cited Chopping Mall. It's not a great movie, but there's enough to keep you entertained throughout. I could rewatch that and have fun. This is not something you can rewatch and get anything out of a second time around.
Right.
There's nothing there.
And I really want, if I ever get the chance to interview Ellen Burstyn, I'm going to ask her what those Social Security checks are looking like, and if she was afraid of a government shutdown taking them away for a moment, because that's what that paycheck she just turned in was. Yeah. And that's not trying to be mean to her. I'm assuming she did the best with the script that she had. The script sucked. That's the worst part of this movie. There might have been maybe 3 or 4 jokes that landed in a 2-hour movie that's supposed to be a horror movie, and none of the scares landed. There's a couple jump scares where I'm like, okay, if you're not paying attention, that'll get you.
There are a couple of moments that I found funny that weren't intended to be funny, but...
Right, but that's not the point of this movie.
There's one moment where I was getting so fed up with the movie that something happens that's actually, I don't want to say interesting, but a decent choice where I was like, not to be that guy, but I was like, let's go. We actually did something, and then everything turns out fine. Kind of.
You gotta find someone. If Blumhouse wants to move forward with the $400 million they spent to get this IP, you gotta find someone new. You cannot give David Gordon Green this movie again. There's literally about 45 seconds in this movie that look like it was edited for TikTok, and I think we just watched the first movie ever filmed for TikTok specifically, because that was atrocious. It jumps from plot point to plot point. There's no continuity outside of a couple characters coming back when it's relevant in the movie, and it doesn't do...
shoehorned in, by the way.
Yeah, there's also shoehorned in. There's one of the most, what should be emotional moments in the movie, and they're like, hey, by the way, we don't care.
It's tacked onto the end.
It's like they forgot to shoot it, and then they were like, oh, by the way, Ellen, here's an attempt at the makeup you had 30 minutes ago. Come back for this scene. And it doesn't look good. It looks atrocious. And you can probably guess what that scene is based on the person I just described in this movie and what I called it. But I can't, in good faith, recommend watching this movie.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot for me. I mean, maybe, and I mean maybe, if this ends up on Peacock for free with ad support, so that way you're at least paying the people who developed the app.
Put it at 1.5 speed. Or 1.25 speed, because this drags.
And even if you put it on 1.5 speed, what you're also going to get is a score that is horrifically too loud.
David Gordon Green's movies are like this.
I can't...
His last four, slowly descending.
I can't give anyone...
Actually, this is better than Halloween Ends, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
slightly,
it's right there with it. I would say it's... In terms of general quality, if you liked Halloween Ends for some reason, you might like this. But even then, I can't recommend it to a Halloween Ends fan because I don't hate you that much.
Well, and I was saying that at least with Halloween Ends, I think that's worse because we had an expectation of what it was going in. If you want to subvert expectations, that's fine. But not for the track those movies were going. Those movies had a very specific track that they should have gone to. And they didn't do it, and they did the Corey Cunningham movie instead.
Right, and so that's what scares me about this movie. If this is the start, and this is, in his general idea, the best one.
How is this a start? Where do they go from here?
I can't imagine there's
no place for the story to go.
Unless it's just another in the same universe possession, I don't see how this continues. There's no
ECU?
There's no quality way that this continues.
The Exorcist Cinematic Universe?
If you gave me $20 to go sit back in that theater and you also paid for my ticket, I'm still not going.
Yeah.
You'd have to give me $50 to make me want to watch this again. And let
me use my phone during it.
Yeah, you know what? There's a moment in this movie where I sat there and I was like, you know what? I get why people use their phone in the theater now.
I almost checked my phone a couple of times, and I did at some point. I don't like doing that, but it got to me to the point where I was just like, I gotta know what time it is.
I've never checked my watch that much.
We still had like an hour 15 left.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you have Regal Unlimited or AMC, I don't know if AMC has a similar subscription, or the revitalized Movie Pass, it might be worth a try if you're the only one in the theater and you can get hammered.
And we were looking at, speaking of being the only one in the theater, we were looking at like the charts, and this is not making money. This is not making money.
It did what Blumhouse does best, and it minimized use of its budget. But even at $30 million, it'll make its money back, maybe.
Well, with marketing, you know.
And the best thing I can call this is the Religious Avengers.
There's a couple of shots where that's exactly what this is.
But to keep this from going too long and to keep this from getting too spoilery, I know we've treaded lightly.
Yeah, I mean, like Saw waited a week to post a spoiler on their Twitter. I'm not
waiting. You don't deserve to have to wait. You need to be warned ahead of time. I'm gonna give this maybe 2 out of 10 straight jackets.
I'd give it 2 out of 5 max, maybe even less. Like, I just got nothing out of it. There's nothing for me to take away from this and be like, you know, that's memorable. That's something I haven't seen before. You know, oh, they made this choice that is something that I haven't seen horror movies do all that much. I got nothing out of it.
But
nothing.
I mean, as you know, this movie was not something that cost a little bit of money. I mean, they bought the rights for $400 million. I don't know how you're going to continue forward. Again, 2 out of 10 for me. I can't recommend you go see this movie unless it's free and you're at home, so you don't even have to pay for gas because it's $5 a gallon.
This isn't something you need to see on a big screen if you're on the fence.
This is one of those movies where you can just pass on it, and I hate saying that because I think saving the theater is important, and I went and saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey in a theater.
So did I.
I really can't give you a recommendation to watch this movie, but other than that, Click like, click subscribe. Maybe check out Adam. What's your socials?
At Adam and Cheek on Twitter, at Adam Cheek3 on Instagram. My podcast is Adam Cheek Sports Week, but we also talked movies this past week too.
And I will make sure that I link everything and everyone to Adam Cheek's stuff in the description. But thank you for joining me. I'm sorry you had to suffer through this movie.
It's fine. I got money off because of the Regal stuff, which is nice. So
don't go see this. Thank you guys, and like and subscribe.